Animals Protection Amendments Bill 2023.
Government motion. The Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury will move a proposed resolution under the Public Finance Ordinance. Members who wish to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. I now call upon the Secretary to speak and move the motion. President, I move that the motion as printed on the agenda be passed. The purpose of the amendment to the resolution of the Land Fund under Section 29 of the Public Finance Ordinance is to enable the government to transfer the future fund's cumulative investment return from the Land Fund to the general revenue. The Land Fund was established on the 1st of July 1997 by the resolution of the Land Fund passed by the Provisional Legislative Council under Section 29 of the Public Finance Ordinance on the 23rd of July 1997. As governed by the resolution, the Land Fund shall be administered and managed by the Financial Secretary, who may authorize and direct the investment of any assets of the Land Fund. With effect from the 1st of January 2016, the assets of the Land Fund have been held in notional savings account within the fiscal reserves called the Future Fund for placement with the Exchange Fund for higher investment return. The investment return was retained within the exchange fund and therefore had not been reflected in the government's accounts. As announced in the 2021-22 budget, the cumulative investment return of the future fund would be brought back to the operating account on a progressive basis. The return brought back was credited as revenue in the Land Fund. At present, the Land Fund resolution has no provision to allow the government to transfer the aforesaid cumulative investment return to the general revenue, and hence the return brought back to the Land Fund cannot be put to use for a purpose other than for investment of assets or meeting expenses relating to the administration or management of the Land Fund. It is therefore proposed to add a provision in the Land Fund resolution to give the Financial Secretary power to transfer from time to time from the Land Fund to the general revenue any balance representing the cumulative investment return that is generated from the future fund and already brought back to the Land Fund. The proposed arrangement is in line with the management of other existing government funds, whereby sums of such funds can be transferred to the general revenue by the Financial Secretary. Also, the amending resolution was announced by the Financial Secretary in the 2024-25 budget. I'd like to thank Mr. Rock Chen, Chairman of the Subcommittee, for the scrutiny of this motion and other members for supporting the government's proposal and completing the scrutiny of the amending resolution. With regard to deliberations of the Subcommittee, I'd like to take this opportunity to reiterate a few points. First, the amending resolution is technical in nature, which enables the internal transfer of funds within government accounts and hence no increase in government expenditure will be involved. Second, on the factors to be considered for the transfer, the amount to be transferred will be decided by the Financial Secretary taking into account Hong Kong's overall economic situation and the government's fiscal position as well as the amount of return in the fund. Third is, as regards transparency, the government will announce in the relevant documents of the annual budget the estimated amount of fund to be transferred. The actual amount will also be disclosed in the government's accounts subsequent to the fund transfer. I hope members will support this resolution. President, I so submit.
I now propose the question to you that the Secretary's motion be passed. Mr. Rock Chen. President, as the Chairman of the Subcommittee on the proposed resolution, I report to the Council the scrutiny work of the Subcommittee. The proposed resolution is for amending the Land Fund Amendments proposal resolution so that the Financial Secretary can, from time to time, transfer the cumulative investment income from the Land Fund to the general revenue accounts of the government. The Bills Committee has asked questions concerning the management and usage of the fund as well as the other aspects. The administration advised that the intention of setting up the future fund is as a long-term saving account. Now, unless there are unforeseeable circumstances, the principal amounts of the future fund cannot be withdrawn before 2025. Now, by transferring the cumulative investment income to the general revenue account, some members are worried that it would undermine the growth potential of the future fund and that it would deviate from the original purpose of the establishment of the fund. The administration advises that The resolution was largely technical to enable transfer of funds within government accounts, and hence no increase in government expenditure will be involved. Hence, it will not deviate the purpose of the future fund, that is, a long-term saving account for the government. And also, the proposed arrangement was in line with the management of other existing government funds, where sums of such funds could be transferred back to the general revenue by the Financial Secretary. Now, concerning the restriction on withdrawal of the future fund before the 31st of December 2025, the administration explained that the restriction only relates to the principal portion of the future fund. Now, in the future, if the government is to transfer the cumulative investment return of the future fund to the general revenue, it will still require an approval from the Council. Members inquired whether the proposal would cause an impact on the financial position of the government, and also that if there is a loss in the investment for the year, then the government's revenue would be negatively impacted. However, the future fund has adopted a mixed investment strategy, and so far the operation has been smooth. The administration expected that the future fund would continue to contribute positively to the government's fiscal position. President, the following is my personal views on the resolution. The proposed amendments to the resolution is just a transfer of fund within the government's accounts. In reality, the relevant investment income will be transferred from the future fund to the general revenue accounts of the government. In the past, the revenue was not reflected. The usage of the principal portion of the future fund still requires approval from the Council. The proposal will not cause any impact on the usage of the fund. The usage of the fund, however, will still have to align with the intention of the establishment of the fund. The government will have to ensure that the usage of the fund is transparent, to ensure that it has not deviated from the intent. I so submit I support the passage of the resolution. Mr. Edmund Wong.
Mr. President, I speak in support of the proposed resolution made under the Public Finance Ordinance. For this proposed resolution, it is simple. This is to empower the FS so as to transfer the investment return of the future fund to the general revenue. In $219.7 billion have been transferred to the future fund. The cumulative investment return is as much as $160 billion. Unlike other funds, the resolution of the land fund doesn't have any provision to say that the cumulative investment return can be transferred to the general revenue of the government. As early as 2021-2022 budget, the administration announced that the cumulative investment return of the future fund would be brought back to the operating account on a progressive basis. Today's proposed resolution is to do so. In other words, in simple terms, we are sort of transferring the money under one account to another account under our own name. In the past, the investment return for different funds have been regarded as part of the general revenue of the government. I think this can better reflect the financial position of the government, and the FS will be given more flexibility in the use of the funds and the return. When the administration first set up the future fund, there was this objective. In the year 2014 and 2015 March, there was the first as well as the second reports. In fact, there was a warning. It was said that as a result of the aging of our population, we have to encounter structural deficits. We need to act in advance to deal with the upcoming crisis. The future fund was set up so that we can invest and therefore hedge against the structural deficit and its related risks as a result of the aging of the population. the risk was identified back then, and the risk is still with us. Probably it has got worse. For us to hedge against the risk, we don't just rely on the growth in the value by investing in the funds so as to meet the expenditure needs for welfare, etc. We should be equipped and be ready any minute so that we can deal with the changes brought about by the transformation of our economy. We need to be as vibrant as possible. If we just allow the money to be kept in an investment account, we can't expect much from that. I think the government is duty-bound to invest the money in appropriate areas so as to enhance our competitiveness. Probably the public have some misunderstanding, thinking that the government is trying to spend our future money. When the future fund was set up, it was said that the money could not be used. And for us to touch the principle before 2025, the legislative approval would be needed. As Mr. Rock Chen has said, the administration explained to the subcommittee that the administration is not trying to use part of the principle, so to speak. In fact, we are only transferring the investment return from one account to another. The principle itself will be kept intact. We are going to invest for our future. Understand that the pandemic has drawn heavily on the government's reserves and resources just to support the community. Moreover, our recovery pace is slower than expected. As a result, our reserves have come down drastically when compared with its peak. I also agree that the future fund may not be our MPF account, but still it would be important as a safe to keep our money for our future. Now, in the future, when we are better off in terms of our financial position, we should do what we did in the past, that is, inject more money into the funds so as to make it grow. So I spoke. Next, Ms. Carmen Ken. Thank you, Mr. President. Now, we had the Land Fund Resolution under Section 29 PFO. It was set up in 1997, 1st of July. And at that time, $179.1 billion were involved. And then in 2016, the then FS, in order to meet the challenges of the aging population, $219 billion were placed under the future fund. We hope that there will be a higher rate of return by having long-term investment. It is said that for the cumulative investment return, the figure has grown beyond $160 billion. It is with the exchange fund without being incorporated under the general revenue. For the year 2021-22, in that year's budget, the FS said that the cumulative investment return of the future fund would be brought back to the operating account on a progressive basis. The Land Fund Resolution currently says that the fund can be brought back to the Land Fund. So for the current proposal, this is to empower the FS to say that the return brought back from time to time to the Land Fund can be brought back to the general revenue of the administration. At the meeting of the subcommittee, the administration told us about the reasons for amending the Land Fund Resolution. And in fact, in relation to the newly added or the new paragraph to be added, there is paragraph 8, we have been given the justification. I draw the attention of the administration to the following areas. First of all, explain clearly the legal basis of the transfer. The administration believes that this is to provide a clearer legal backup to the FS powers in relation to the transfer, so as to facilitate the internal transfer. According to the DOJ as well as the legal advice of the LegCo, it is a technical amendment, and therefore the administration has resorted to a very succinct way of drafting. And the word may has been adopted in both the Chinese and the English version, that is "hor" in Chinese, so as to enable the FS to exercise its discretion. I think even though this is technical, we need to explain more. Second, for the future fund, we should make good use of it. As its name says, the future fund would have a mixed strategy for investment. It is hoped that via long-term investment, we can get a higher return for our fiscal reserves. Currently, the consolidated rate of return is around about 8%. Since the 2022 budget, altogether $62 billion have been taken out for the Hong Kong Investment Corporation. And in fact, the cumulative investment return has $100 billion set aside for the Northern Metropolis development. Here, we are only talking about the cumulative investment return. We won't be affecting the principal. Any withdrawal of the principal would require the approval of the LegCo. So in future, when the Hong Kong IC operates maturely, we can consider regularly setting aside money from the future fund to the Hong Kong IC so that we can provide more funding for our startups as well as other enterprises. This is to meet the original purpose of setting up the future fund. Second, I think we need to be clear and transparent in relation to the amount to be transferred. When the FS is to decide on the amount to be transferred, he will take into account the overall state of the economy, financial position of the government, as well as the cumulative amount of investment return. And then in every year's budget, there will be an announcement as to the amount to be brought back from the cumulative return to the general revenue. Upon completion of the transfer, there will be a disclosure so that the public would have a clear idea about the relevant sums in the general revenue, and it would not get mixed up with other sources of revenue. It would not entail an increase in the government expenditure. Mr. President, I believe that the Council will continue to monitor the government's finances and will keep an eye on the areas I outlined. Thank you. Dr. Johnny Ng. Well, the proposal is such that we should be asked to allow the FS to have the power to transfer the cumulative investment return to the operating account. There was a thorough discussion. We were concerned about the strategy of investment, and we were concerned about whether there would be a specific purpose for the money to be transferred. Well, since 2016, the cumulative amount was $160 billion. And there is no specific purpose for the money to be transferred. And then we will look at the state of the economy as well as the financial position before the FS will decide on the future size of the bringing back. Now we have got the fiscal deficit, so I hope the administration will regularly tell us about the financial position, amount of money transferred, etc. I think the administration should also enhance the rate of return for the future funds so as to address the fiscal deficit. The government should steer the investment approach, and we should expand the scope of investment. We should also tie in with the national policy of new quality development. We should invest in industries as well as new projects involved in technology and innovation, so that the higher potential can give us a higher rate of return. So we should make good use of the future fund so as to contribute towards our fiscal health. So I spoke. Does any other member wish to speak?
If not, I will invite the Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury to reply. Then the debate will come to a close. Secretary, thank you, President. In fact, I've listened to members who have just spoken, and I've listened to their views before. Investment capital will come from the future fund, but this resolution touches on the investment return, and the principle will remain untouched. I thank members for supporting this resolution. I now put this question to you that the Secretary's motion be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. The council meeting will be suspended until 9 a.m. tomorrow.